Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full on follow along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show. What's going on, guys? Aaron Guyett, Education Director here at LivingFit, and I have the incredible pleasure and honor to interview Cody McBroom. So he is the owner and the CEO of Tailored Coaching Method. He does a bunch of online training, nutrition coaching, and he has a pretty often downloaded podcast as well. Go check that out for certain. But I'm super pumped to get into all things fitness and just all things Cody McBroom and kind of feel and find out for myself as you guys get to find out, because this is my first chance at meeting Cody McBroom, and I've seen him on Instagram, I've seen him all over the internet, but we get to find out together and discover Cody. Thanks so much for hopping on.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So what brought you into fitness?
Oh, that's a loaded question, man. I'll try to, this will kind of give my background a little bit too, and I'll try to keep it short and sweet as much as I can. But I was always a chubby kid growing up. So growing up, I didn't play a lot of sports. I did play soccer, but my sports were skateboarding and snowboarding, and most young skateboarders, snowboarders, they don't think to train with weights or eat healthy. And as you get older, you actually steer further and further away from a lot of those healthy habits that you would normally do as an athlete. And so long story short, man, I was just always kind of the chubby kid. I was always a black sheep in my family because my family's all naturally lean and fit and athletic and in multiple different sports. I just wasn't. And then in high school, I kind of hit a growth spurt, started losing some weight, started getting really serious about soccer, played at a pretty decent level, and got my first knee injury, which was a meniscus tear. So oddly enough, I was a freshman, one of the only two freshmen that made varsity sophomore year, came back to play varsity starting, tore my meniscus within the first couple games, had surgery, gained weight, came back the next year, was going to come make my comeback, started to lose weight, tore my ACL in the same leg, preseason soccer. And then later on, I actually ended up tearing my meniscus again and having surgery again on it. So I've had quite a few knee surgeries, but that's ultimately what drove me into fitness, is being kind of a broken, dysfunctional athlete who was now overweight, and I was going to community college for business, which I did not enjoy. But little did I know that there was a PT program there, a health program that actually was ranked top 3 in the nation for training physical trainers in health. And I had no idea. And the guy who ran the program his name is Tim Vagan. He's a legend in the space. He's kind of one of the guys behind the scenes doing a lot of stuff with some really big names. And for the old school strength guys, you'll notice strength guys and gals, you'll notice some of the names I drop here in a sec. But he actually found me in the college gym. I was doing leg extensions with a knee brace on, just trying to, at the time, I was just like, knee extend. This is probably going to work for my rehab, right? And he came up. He's like, "Hey, I probably could give you some better exercise to do with that knee if you want." And being an ignorant 18-year-old, because I graduated high school at 17, was in college, I was just like, "All right, dude, whatever." And I just kind of brushed it off, right? Because he was not in shape by any means, and he was just some old dude in my mind. But he said, "Hey, I run the program here. If you ever want to stop by, this is the building I'm in. Come check out the class." Weeks had passed, and long story short, one day in Business 101, I'll never forget this. I raised my hand and asked the guy a question. I said, "How many businesses have you ran?" And there was a follow-up question that pertained to what we were talking about. And his answer was 0. And I found it odd that a man who has never ran a business in his entire life was teaching me Business 101 in college. So I actually got up and left. I wasn't a fan of school. I was never a good student anyway. So I got up and left. And as I was walking to my car, I saw the building with the PT program. And I was like, you know what? I'm already skipping class. Let's just pop in. So I pop in, and it was functional training was the class. And he had a picture of a baby on the screen, a projector, the baby. And he had all these lines and diagrams around the baby of how they were crawling in a quadruped position and their posture and the cueing. And it was just a side of fitness that I had not seen before. You know, at that time I saw boot camps and bodybuilding and magazines, and that was it. So, you know, there was not really any Facebook, no Instagram, no YouTube wasn't huge yet. MySpace was still around, I think. It was just kind of like, man, this is crazy. So long story short, I fell in love with it. And I sat after class. I actually sat through a couple classes that day, talked to him a bunch, went home, and I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm changing my degree. And my parents were split up. So I actually went to Mom first. No. Went to Dad, who paid for school. He said no, which I understand. I was still overweight, hadn't been training for a month. So he's like, get out of here, right? So me being the action taker I am, I went to school the next day and forged his signature, did the paperwork, changed my degrees to health and fitness, and I started studying. And I think I told him like 6 months later. But at that point, I had lost 50 pounds. I was just so into it. I was running like conditioning classes for free. I would like post online. Friends and people would come to this field, and I would take them through conditioning. And I was just obsessed with it. So they let me stick through it. And Tim Vagan ended up throughout my course, like introduced me to so many people who I got to the pleasure of learning with along the way, guest speakers to seminars to just weekends with him and the speaker or the guest. And it would be Charlie Weingroff or Gray Cook, Michael Boyle, Eric Cressy, Dan John, just so many phenomenal people. Luca Hocevar was another one that ended up coming to the class and speaking. And he was the first one that I could relate to, because he wasn't wearing a polo and khakis as a PT. You know? Yeah. He was personal and saying he was actually wearing a Jordan sweatsuit and a chain. And I was just like, who is this dude? But he had a gym nearby. So I ended up popping his gym all the time. He was going to run an internship. So I applied for the internship, told him in the internship interview that my goal someday was to own an online fitness company. And his response was, how are you going to make money? And I said, I have no idea. So he was like, you know what? Do your internship here. If we hire you, train people for 5 years straight, you'll have the right to do an online fitness company. 6.5 years later of training people 6 days a week in Luca's gym, I ended up leaving, giving up 100% of my client roster to the coaches at the gym, and started my company, which at the time was Boom Boom Performance, which is my nickname has always been Cody Boom Boom. And it just kind of spiraled, man. Now we changed the name. We're Tailored Coaching Method. We have a 2,000 square foot gym here that is a private facility, really just for friends and family and for us to record and shoot content and do what we do. But we have 10 coaches all around the world, clients all around the world. We have a media guy full-time, operations lady. We have a CSO who is a PhD researcher just there to educate our clients and coaches. And we have a global coaching company at this point. So it's been a wild journey, man, but it really started from being injured and overweight and wanting to finally lose some weight for really to get girls' attention and not be a guy with a bum knee. Right. And I just ran into the right people at the right time, and I just trusted my gut, and now we're here.
Yeah. So that's the name dropping of all name dropping, because those are all the guys that I learned from growing up in the fitness industry as well. It seems like almost the same time. And then Luca and I, we met super early in his kind of career, because, you know him, he's like just always about, like, I tell people, like, I dive deep, like I dive into the deep side of the pool when I get involved in something, and go all the way to the bottom. He's like going through the drain in through the pipes, right? That guy, I love him. So that's awesome. Yeah. But here's the important question. Do you still skate, and do you still snowboard?
Yes and yes. Snowboard not as much as I would like to, and I live in Washington, so it's it's a lame excuse. I actually went up to the mountains a couple times just this winter, and it was the first time in a few years. So I finally got back on that. But to this day, man, every single year for my brother's birthday, I get him a new deck. Every year for my birthday, he gets me a new deck. I actually just gripped and put together a brand new girl skateboard literally this week. So I'm still active. My daughter loves it.
Nice.
It's tiring with her. She can't ride yet. She's 3. Yeah. So I carry her while I skate around the neighborhood. Loves it, man. It's super, super cool. So, but yeah, I'm not as good as I used to be, right? Because I'm getting older and I got to be careful now. But I still do skateboard. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny too. You just certain like patterns that you just don't think about, like that just come kind of unconsciously when you're skating, when you're younger. It's like, you actually have to like think about it now or whatever. Same with snowboarding. Certain things just come to you, but it is like riding a bike, but when you start to get technical or whatever, then it's like, oh yeah, no, not doing that huge ollie over that, or yeah. not trying
Yeah.
to do any crazy jumps or flips or anything like that. Trying to keep my injuries to a dull roar.
Yeah, you kind of. I remember watching guys and calling them cruisers and be like, "Oh, those guys just skate the bowl and they're just cruising." And now I'm like, "Dude, I'm a cruiser.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
good.
Exactly.
I
And
get it, man."
totally okay with it. Like you could judge me all day
Yeah,
long. That's
yeah.
awesome. That's cool, man. Yeah. So I just recently moved back to North Idaho. So I'll be picking snowboarding back up again. I was in Southern California, and every time I'd go snowboarding, it was like, unless I went to Mammoth, which it was a haul and a half to get there, it was just like the worst of it was like crowded, crappy snow. And I was like, man, I can't do this. Not here. Not when I have North Idaho, Montana, Eastern Washington. Yeah, no way. There's no way. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're over there, Western Washington. So are you roundabout same neighborhood as Lucas still? Then
I'm further south now. As I built the online business and had my daughter, I just kind of honestly moved further and further and further away from the city. So now I'm tucked away, kind of in the woods down south, which I love. I got more space, cheaper rent for a big gym, stuff like that. But still within the vicinity, still pretty damn close.
yeah, and it sounds to me like a bulk of your revenue, a bulk of your profit would be coming from the online space anyway. So as long as you got a solid Wi-Fi connection, right, you're probably pretty golden.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually 100%. So we don't train anybody physically anymore in person. It is completely shifted to online. The only people I still work with in person are like my brother-in-law lifts with me now. He's lost 50 pounds or so, and just he's a manual worker, so he's just fucking jacked now. My ex-assistant's husband comes and trains. My media guy, his fiance. So it's kind of like friends and family, you got your lifting crew, and once they stick through it for at least a few weeks, and I can tell that they're serious, like I usually get them a key made, and I'm like, all right, you got access granted, like you come lift whenever you want, kind of thing. And it's just the way I looked at it was similar to Mark Bell, man. I thought it was the coolest thing that he created this dope gym, and nobody pays for it. We needed a headquarters to do what we do anyway. Mm-hmm. I needed somewhere to go that wasn't my home to do the work I wanted to do. And if I can provide my friends and family a free gym that is badass and has everything we need along the way, and it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. So then tell me what's the basis of education, and what's the sort of the basis of sort of the methodology that fuels the nutrition side specifically. So, and I know we'll talk about the fitness side and stuff as well, but so with the online coaching, is it, you're talking to people, getting what, their goals and all that stuff, and then kind of figuring out a methodology personally one-on-one, or is it sort of some rubber stamp stuff but then that's molded to the person? How do you guys wire that, or how is that differentiated from just snagging stuff off Instagram or whatever?
Totally. Yeah, so this is where like we really try to live up to the name tailored, right? Because I think that and you know this, everybody's so different, man. Like I know it's cheesy to say everybody's a special little snowflake, but the reality is everybody has a different activity level, different, as we've learned, especially working with a lot of females who are looking to lose weight, for example, everybody has different hormonal profiles, metabolic history. There's just so much going on. Not to mention the psychological effects diets can have on people, right? So we have somebody who has masters in sports nutrition, somebody who has their masters in strength and conditioning and exercise kinesiology. We have a researcher. We have somebody who's pursuing their masters in psychology. So we have such a well-rounded team that we kind of have a model of sticking to the scientific principles, which cannot be changed, right? Like, so a calorie deficit, it's the law of thermodynamics. We cannot remove that. If you look at keto, intermittent fasting, the Mediterranean diet, carnivore, paleo, I don't care what you want to do. If it doesn't create a calorie deficit, you're not going to lose weight with it, right? So those are all methods to achieve one principle, calorie deficit, right? So we have our scientific principle, and then we use what I would call evidence-based coaching, not even just science-based coaching, because evidence is where science meets practice and experience and anecdote, right? There's a lot of people rest in peace to John Meadows, who just passed away. He was a great example of somebody who had a lot of experience and had a lot of methods that he used that were not always backed by science. And sometimes later on, science actually came out and proved him right. But it's because he was so ahead of his time, because he was testing things out in the field, you know. And if you look at people like him or Dave Tate or Louis Simmons and some of the people that like pioneered powerlifting alone and bodybuilding as well, same thing. A lot of it is not science or research driven tactics and methods that they use. It's just proven to work in their experience working with thousands and thousands of people. So we try to combine the two. You know, we do have, like I said, a researcher on staff who is, I mean, he's conducting research in fitness and nutrition. He's in the lab. He does education with our coaches on a weekly basis, monthly basis for presentations, weekly basis for communication and learning. And he trains our interns as well. But he's on the forefront of science. So for him, everything is research, where science really influences me, and so does he, but I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this since I was 18, so 11 years now, you know, and the first job I ever got was with Luca at a gym.
You just skipped a bunch of the gaps and shortfalls that every trainer has to go through, right?
Exactly. Right. And when I'm in school, I run into a guy who's great friends with Gray Cook and Dan John. Like, those are his buddies. Like, come on. Like I really did. It was a very lucky scenario that I got into, but I capitalized on it. So I've had a lot of experience over the years, and it's the combination of the two, right? Let's look at the scientific principles that cannot be debunked or worked around. And how do we use the experience of coaching to be our evidence-based, like this combo being the evidence-based coaching that we use in order to get people from point A to point B. And that does entail changing the methods we use of dietary principles. So are we going with macros? Are we going with just calories and protein? Are we going with intuitive eating or habitual style? Are we doing tracking lists? Are we recording data and biofeedback? Like, we have systems and structures for every type of person based on what they can adhere to, so we can tailor it to them. And then the same goes with communication. Does this person respond best to email, to text, to phone calls, to video responses? Like, and if you create systems around it, which is what we've done a really good job of doing, you can scale that, especially when you have a big team, because we can have different ways of communicating with our clients to make sure that they're receiving the information properly, right? And a big piece of that too is actually educating them. You know, a lot of people blindly follow a plan they find on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, and it's, to me, it's walking down a dark path. But if somebody ever said, "Hey, I want you to, you know, you're going to walk down this path. I know it's dark. Don't worry about it. Just walk. I'll tell you when you're there." And they're like, "Well, how long is this path?" You're like, "Don't worry about it." "Well, when do I get there?" "I'll tell you later. Don't worry about it." "Okay, well, when does it end? What am I doing?" Just go. Just trust me. Like, you know, trust me. People would say no. It's a stupid question, because nobody would say yes to that. But if you follow a meal plan or a calorie intake, and you have no idea why that's your baseline, you have no idea when the next adjustment's going to come, how this is going to periodize over the course of months, so on and so forth, you're walking in the dark. So what we try to do is really create that whole blueprint and educate people on that and teach them on the front end. This is exactly what we're doing. We're the magician that shows all of our tricks, right? We're the dealer that shows all our hands. So you can learn from us, because at the end of the day, especially with online coaching, you know, there was people who I trained at Vigor my first client who I had at Vigor still trains there, literally. And I trained her for 6 years. And the reason is because she was a part of a culture and a community, right? Online, it's a little bit different. It's hard to do that. Now, we create relationships with people. So we have plenty of clients who have been with us for a year or two. But we also understand that most people come to us, number one, for a result, not a friend. So although we're going to build a relationship that is going to get them to stay longer, because we do have clients that stay a pretty long time, we need to create autonomy in that individual, which means educating them, because whether you stay for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, at some point you're going to go on your own. And if you don't know what the hell you just did and why you got the result you did, what was the point of the coaching? You're going to rebound. You're going to regain weight, which we know is very, very common. It's a high statistic of people that do that. So it's a long-winded answer, but I think, you know, our quote unquote method, the tailored coaching method, it's tailored to the person. It's at our core, we are coaches in every sense of the word. I think Martin Rooney is the one that really got me to stick to this, because I remember being around him a lot back in the day. And he told me a story. I think it was in Germany where it was first, the word coach was invented. This is why the purses have that carriage on it. But that's what a coach is. It's something that gets you from point A to point B. But he had this elaborate story about watching the scenery out the carriage, because the coach is actually really slow. So it takes a long time, but you have big windows so you can see and you can learn your path so you can get back on your own and blah, blah, blah. And it clicked with me. And I was like, man, we got to educate people. If we're not doing that, then what is the point, right? So that's the coaching part. And then our methods change based on the individual, but we always stay true to the scientific principles that we can't get around.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's very Martin Rooney style. I think I'm interviewing him tomorrow, which is awesome. But yeah, he's a longtime friend of mine as well. But that's totally his style, right? You like tell that story and then it like sinks in concretely. But yeah, that's so true. So you got a fairly large coaching staff. And then, so are each of the coaches these also masters in sports science and masters, research and whatnot? So that's your coaching team, or do you have other coaching team even beyond that they're learning from these sort of individuals that have pursued or achieved their masters?
Yes, in many ways. So like we have, I kind of look at like as a company, we're generalist, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for a long time that was frowned upon. And cause like when you create a business, you have to have a niche. And I remember filling out like business avatars and it was like, what do they make? What magazines do they read? Where do they go to eat? And it was like so specific that I was like, dude, I don't know who I'm trying to sell. Like I'm very confused. And I think that was a mistake. And it was John Berardi who I first heard said like the generalist is actually a really good thing to have, especially I think if you're building a team. And so because we've built a team, I have people who work best with certain individuals, and that could be fat loss, muscle growth, strength, whatever, but it's a personality that they connect with. And that's what I'm focused on. Right. And then we have somebody who's almost got her dietitian's degree. And for her, she really, really likes autoimmune, digestive health, like very serious, like over the top, crazy situations that she knows how to help and fix. So that's a niche in itself, right? She found that path while working for me. She wasn't that way at the beginning because she was just starting to pursue through college. So it's a combination of things. And the beauty is, myself and our chief science officer, Dr. Brandon Roberts, the researcher, we're in charge of educating our coaches on all of the above.
Gotcha.
Coaches are just coaches, but as they've developed these niches, we have meetings and team gatherings in person twice a year and things like that, where I empower them to take like step up and teach, like, hey, like you're getting your master's in psychology because she was going down the route of being a teacher, but now she found fitness. So she's not doing that, but she's still pursuing her degree. Hey, teach us everything you're learning. Tell us more. Like I want to empower you to be an educator on top of being a coach. So, we're definitely a generalist company because we have a wide variety of clients, but I think everybody's kind of falling into their own niche, whether that's a category of a client or it's just a personality, which I love. Our team's very, very diverse and unique. So it's easy to match people with the right coach.
Yeah. What a gift, right? To have a sort of broad spectrum team where then you can be generous, because if there's a specific thing a specific niche of a person that's coming in, it's like, you're probably going to work better with this person. And if it doesn't work out, you got all sorts of other personalities and styles that they can test out. So then first of all, I do want you to walk me through the journey of how people would then normally discover you and then set up their time with you and how that would get walked out. But so because you're in the area, do you know Joel Jameson then?
Yep. I'm actually getting ready to contact him to get on my podcast.
Nice. And then you said specifically with Joel Jameson, I know he's doing like Morpheus and all those biometrics and things like that. Do you have a particular, because it sounds like you have a pretty robust selection of tools and biometrics and things that you're using, biofeedback devices and whatnot that you're using, but do you have some particulars that are sort of the mainstay? These are the staples that you typically use?
Yeah, it depends on the willingness to invest on the individual, right? So like, for example, before Morpheus, it was Bioforce HRV, right? And we were actually some of the Vigor, we were like the first ones to test that on clients, right? And I remember it was beta, like he just wanted to test on people, which was really cool, fun experience. So for some people, they like, we do talk about science a lot. So we get a lot of people that are, I call them advanced gen pop, right? It's these people that they're not competing. They're not doing anything. They are like the garage grinders in the gym and shit like that. But man, they want to learn. They want to know the science. They want to know like, okay, this whole periodization thing, what does that even look like, right? Tracking biofeedback. Tell me more. And so we do dive into a lot of that. But for some people, like my wife didn't like it, but I replaced my wedding ring with an Oura ring because they were both black. It made sense. I love wearing this. That's my way of doing it because I just don't like wearing like jewelry and stuff around my wrist. It was an easy way. I have to wear a ring anyway. So I personally like tracking that. Steps are an easy thing, right? For fat loss, that's one of the best things for biofeedback that you can track
Mhm.
is your NEAT. It's going to influence your BMR. It's going to help you lose weight.
Yep.
Your sleep, that's a huge one. Most people sleep like shit. I slept like dog shit for a long time starting a business. So this has helped me a ton. Your readiness score in the morning, stuff like that. We have people who are a little bit more serious about performance. Okay, cool. Let's get a chest strap. Let's download something like Morpheus or even just the Polar app. And I can program your conditioning based on what we're seeing with your heart rate and your intervals, your rest periods, and all these different things. And then there's people who are like, I don't want any of that. Like, I don't have the funds. I don't want to buy all this crazy stuff. We're still tracking biofeedback in the sense of on a scale of 1 to 5.
Yep.
How was your sleep? How many hours did you get? How was your digestion? How was your mood? How's your performance? How was your motivation to train? Which can tell us a lot about how somebody's central nervous system is recovering and whether or not we need a diet break or a deload, or if we can press the gas and go harder. Stress levels, hunger, cravings, there's all kinds of stuff. So typically with our clients, most people, even those who have never tracked a day in their life, we educate them on the importance of it and how this can develop that autonomy and education for them. So we usually have a good buy-in. I know there is a lot of people, especially back in the day, precision nutrition, who I love, it was a big influence of this. At the beginning was a lot of habit-based stuff, and that's all everybody knew. So a lot of people assumed that tracking macros and biofeedback and all these things would just overwhelm people. We find quite the opposite because it gives people like specific answers and numbers. They can correlate different things exactly, clarity on what they're doing. And when we see these things improve, we can tie it to the diet. We can tie their fluctuations on the scale to different things so it doesn't trip them out when they see the scale jump up. So they're just education tools. But we have people that track all these on a weekly basis, right? So on a scale of 1 through 5, let's rate all these things, then answer these questions. That's part of your weekly assessment with your coach. And then we have a handful or less, because we don't want to get too crazy with it, that we do every single day. So we're tracking our, let's say, our weight, our macros that we ended up hitting based on what our prescription says, like we want to be within range of. And then your motivation in the morning, your hunger in the morning, your recovery, so your soreness, and then usually something individual, whether that's digestion or mood or stress or whatever. And this allows us to kind of dictate the ebb and flow of the periodization and how hard we can go in certain things, when we need to pull back, how often we need to pull back, so on and so forth. Based on what we're seeing with the individual with biofeedback.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. And okay, so cool. I'm glad then that the Joel Jamieson turned into a little bit more of the how. So the team, the coaching aspect, but then also the how and the tracking and the metrics and things like that, which is rad. So then kind of what's the typical journey where, somebody, obviously you're online. So are they looking for the website? Are they looking to lose weight? Are they finding it through Instagram, or is it a bit of everything? What would be sort of the main thing that's attracting them in? And then once they get in, how's that process? What happens? And are there some, like you said, because there's some people that can afford, or there's some people like me, I can afford it. I just don't want to have all this crap on me. I don't want to have to record everything. It's like, if it comes out on a readout, cool. If I can just write down 1 or 2 things, cool. But if it's more than that, it's like, nah, I'm good. I'll work out on my own anyways. So then what's sort of the journey? Are there, for the people that can't afford it, are there some freemium type things and ways that they can start to get educated? We have something like our purpose is to clear a path to a better you, because we see, and it's awesome to have people like you and Luca and Joel Jamieson and Martin Rooney in the fitness industry, where it's like, we get that we need a coach, guide, Sherpa, and also educate. Right? Because it's so confusing. If you look out there in the mainstream of fitness, it's like, what do I do? I have shakes, I juice, and then I do leg extensions with my knee brace, like you said, right? It's like, is that what I'm supposed to do? Like, no, it can't be. But so how does that journey work?
Yeah. So, from before I even started my online business, I got just semi-obsessed in a healthy way of creating free content. I've always loved the creative nature of writing blogs, writing newsletters, creating free guides, doing videos, recording podcasts. So because of that, I've just done more and more, and I've been able to bring somebody on board who helps me make them better and better, higher quality. And that eliminated the need to run any ads ever. So we're 100% organically driven. And because of that, it's constantly pushing content. So Instagram and podcasts are our 2 big ones, obviously, to attract people. I often say that Instagram is where people find me, and then I send them to longer form content. So I'm not always trying to sell people on Instagram. That's my platform of kind of like waving them in and saying like, hey, Like, I'm somebody you can trust in the industry. There's a lot that you can't. So like, come here. And then I'm usually saying, you should go read this 5 to 10,000 word blog that I just over delivered on so much value. You're going to wonder why it's free. Or, hey, check out this free 87 page ebook on nutrition or training program design, just because I want you to learn more, right? Or check out our YouTube video where I do 20 to 30 minute presentations. Listen to the podcast that I drop 3 times a week. That's up to an hour every episode, because I want people to invest time in learning, because it shows me that you're, number one, a high quality client. You're going to come on board. And I know you're the type of person who is invested in this and wants results that last. You want to learn. And I also know that I can help people without charging them, right? So if I can help a lot of those people, one, I'm just being a good human being in the industry. And two, by the time people come to me, they're usually like, dude, I've been constantly consuming your stuff for the last 6 months to a year. I've taken everything I can for free and gotten results with it. Now I'm ready for the next step. And it makes the whole process 10 times easier, right? Yeah. Now, it's a long game strategy. A lot of people don't have the patience for that. It requires you not buying into some gimmicky business hack and creating a funnel and blah, blah, blah. But in my opinion, for a sustainable business, I think it's the route to go, and people can trust you that way, right? So it's how I've met a lot of cool people and made a lot of good connections and relationships in the industry as well. But that's usually where people find us. So they find me on Instagram, where they search our podcast. They end up downloading one of our guides, getting on the email list, or just going to our website and consuming hundreds of free content and blogs. Eventually, they apply for coaching. So once they apply for coaching, they get a personal text from my assistant, and that assistant is going to connect them with a coach. They're going to get on a call, which is also going to be free, and we're going to spend 30 minutes with you, making sure it's a good fit, giving you more information, teaching you about where you're at versus where you want to be and why you're stuck. How do we bridge that gap? And really trying to educate and over deliver in that path as well. A lot of times the people who come on board, I mean, if you get on a call with us, you know what we do, you know how we do it. You trust us enough to come on board. So the calls usually go pretty well. Obviously our conversion rate's good at that point because we're not running ads and stuff like that. But we get them on the call, we take the next step, and that's getting them started. And this is where the assessment process starts. So they've had their first call with either myself or one of the coaches. If it's with me, I usually pair them with a coach. And if that's the case, they'll have another call with the coach. And then they go through a questionnaire, which is really detailed. There's over 30 questions, and we're diving through a lot of stuff. I want to know, I mean, everything about you essentially, because I can't tailor this process to you if I don't know what is stressing you out, what your lifestyle's like, what your work schedule's like, how your sleep is. Do you have kids? Are you married? Where do you live? What's the everything, right? What's your environment like? We even ask you what your favorite movie is. Like, I want to know random things. And then we go through before pictures, measurements, assessing your body comp, your posture, those kind of things. We'll go through a food log audit. So we're looking through your food logs. If you're not tracking, we'll have you track for at least a few days first, because it's like a roadmap or a GPS. I can't get you where you want to be if I don't know where you're starting at, right? So we got to see the first one. And I always say, if you're drinking beer and eating Snickers every day, don't stop. On my account, I want to see that you're doing that. Like, I need an accurate starting point before I can create your new plan. If we're doing training, we do a very, very dumbed down variation of FMS, where they can just do it in their living room with their smartphone, film it. And then from there, now we have everything we need. And this is where we lay out the blueprint, right? So we're taking them through and mapping out their calories, what the periodization plan looks like. So for those listening who might not know what that means, it's just a fancy word for plan. It's just
a phased out plan. Yeah.
And in nutrition, that means looking at the calendar year. You know, do you have an in-season, off-season, preseason, postseason? If you're not an athlete, then do you have vacations, or do you have things coming up? Do you have higher stress periods of work versus non-stressful periods of work? If you're after fat loss, is it going to work best for you if we do a 12-week fat loss phase that's a little more aggressive? Or do we want to take 24 weeks and take breaks along the way and be a little bit more sustainable because you're focused on muscle retention, whatever it may be, right? Yeah. But we're mapping this out and showing you. And we cover a lot in this initial thing. But sometimes the client gets a 30-minute video with their prescription, and it's us walking them through every single step of the way and teaching them. So it's not just like, here's your PDF, go get it and let me know if you have questions. It's like, hey, here's everything. You're going to get a lot of info here, but let me walk you through it. You're not going to be perfect overnight. We know that, but I want to show you what we're working towards, and I'm going to show you how to execute this properly. So there's no stress, and you're actually getting results as time goes. Yeah. And that's kind of the process, right? And after that, it's 24/7 access, full board coaching.
Man, that's incredible. And so is there scheduled like monthly or weekly follow-ups and things like that, or they're getting this like in-depth periodized program, right, or plan, right? Boom, here's how it's going to work for the entirety of the year, the 6 months, or are they typically signing up for a year? Then is that?
No, but so like it depends. So we require a 3 or 6 month commitment just to let us know you're serious.
Yeah.
But we'll map it out for longer than that, because at the end of the day, I don't care what your goal is. If you can reach your goal in 3 months, awesome. But you're not going to sustain it if you don't figure out what the plan for after the plan is, right?
Yeah.
So there's a diet after the diet kind of thing.
Oh, I reached the top. Oh, let's go back down. No, don't go back down. Stay at the top.
Exactly. Yeah. And so even if it is shifting into intuitive eating because you don't want to track all this stuff anymore, that's fine. But we got to show you how to transition into that, right? We got to show you that path. So there's a formal weekly assessment for everybody, no matter what. We have to check in every week, not only to keep you accountable, but we got to know if things are working. If they're not working, why aren't they working? So we can change it and get them working again, because you came to us for a result, right? Usually communication is throughout the week too. So there's conversations between, we have groups where all the clients get together with the coaches and stuff. So there's constant conversation, but there's a weekly assessment every week. And then there's a quarterly review at the end of every quarter for us to go back and look at everything we're doing and show the client where we're winning, where we can improve upon. They get a chance to reflect with us. Myself and the PhD on staff gets to review the plan. So they have the comfort of knowing it's not just your coach, but other expert eyes as well, kind of taking a peek to be like, hey, things are in check. Things are working. We're reviewing the process. You got multiple people behind your back kind of watching you and guiding you along the way. And then like I said, it's 24/7. So our coaches, they do get a lot of access to us. We're not a quick, cheap, automated company. We are very, very hands-on. Which I think you need to do in this kind of stuff.
I mean, the silver lining of COVID was like everything went to online and screens and things like that. But the downfall of that is when people kind of shortchanged it, and it's just like you just get these, like you said, oh, here's your PDF, here's your 30-minute video or whatever, or even live Q&A. But then, oh no, that's it. That's all you get. It's like, dude, well, what about if I'm 3.5 weeks in? I've sent you 3 weeks of records, and I am clueless as to how to implement this aspect of the nutrition or this aspect of the exercise or whatever. That 24/7 access, or being able to hop on a Facebook group, or, some sort of interaction where you can get some sort of professional expert feedback. I mean, that's crucial. I love that. That is, man, the whole thing. I'm freaking blown away, Cody. And one, I'm blown away at really, it's, seems like you got to, and some of that was like gifted to you, but then obviously you didn't just, let it hit you in the face or whatever. You like grabbed onto it and took it for everything it was worth. But man, like you've just taken the fast track into creating something that's sustainable, scalable, and successful. I think most importantly, I mean, incredible. And I mean, with people like the names that you've dropped that have been there to support, encourage, teach you, it's obviously, as long as the person is willing to do the work, which clearly you have been, that's amazing. So I want to finish it up, and this by no means is the end. Would love to have you hop on again. Love to talk with you more. I'd love to pick your brain even more. But for this one, I'd love to finish with, after hearing all of that, hearing how much you've thought about this 40,000 foot view, boots on the ground, systemizing it, all this stuff, creating this really successful business. What is LivingFit to you? And not the brand LivingFit, but just this concept, this principle of LivingFit.
Yeah. It's a very, very hard question to answer in like one way,
right.
And I think that's kind of it. It's multifaceted to me. It's as I've been in the industry and as I've grown and learned, it's changed so much. At one point, it was all about function, and I mean function as the cheesy way function was years ago, where it was like, how well can I balance on this Bosu ball while holding things in my hand? And stupid shit. I have a picture of me doing a push up with my feet on a Bosu ball, and then my hands are stacked on 2 med balls each, and I'm doing push-ups. I use it in a presentation of like, don't do stupid shit and try to teach people. And I'm like, this was years ago when I was easily influenced by that movement. But man, I think, not to be cheesy with my company name, but I think this question is so tailored to the person. I think that's the beauty. Like, living fit to me is optimality. That's all it is. Because the more I've been in the industry, the more I've realized that, you know, there's an element of fitness that is purely mental, and it makes me sharper in every sense of the word. There's a part of fitness that is very spiritual to me. There's a part of fitness that is just fucking cool. Like, it just looks cool and edgy, and I like that. You know, there's a part of it that makes my work ethic what it is, because it pushes you, and it pushes you into resistance, and it creates a side of your character and work ethic and your traits like nothing else will. It's living longer. It's being functional. It's being healthy. It's having energy for my daughter. You know, it's just so much. So I think it's hard for me to define, but I would say living fit is living optimally. And I think if you can look at anything in your life and just realize that you're just like, it's just kind of grinding through it. And that was how I felt when I first started trying to lose weight. You know, I was like, man, too many things day to day are way too hard for me. I'm a fat 18-year-old. This doesn't make sense. You know, like, this is not optimal. And I think that's how it is. You know, even if like there was a point where I was like, man, it's hard for me to get through the workday because I'm just brain dead. All right, I need to go back and focus on sleep and recovery and sauna and things like that. Right now, I feel really lively and productive and energetic. Cool. I don't need to rely on caffeine. That's living fit. You know, so I think ultimately it's very multifaceted, but I think it's to me it's living optimally. It's how can you optimize every aspect of life?
Yeah,
really.
And most definitely tailored. Well, Cody, it was an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on the Living Fit Show. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, sharing your passion, and sharing this badass business model and badass business that you've created with Taylor Coaching Method. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it a lot. Really do.
Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to living.fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.